Hello students, welcome to LODLC lecture series on MKT 309 Management Theory, Study Section 8. The title of today's topic is Human Relations Movement. Introduction. Human relations approach was first developed in the industrial scene in the 1920s by Elton Mayo and his colleagues, known as the Mayo Group in relations literature. In what began as an illumination experiment and ended as the most extensive and influential study ever conducted in the industry. Elton Mayo, often referred to as the father of human relations approach, headed a staff of men who were to revolutionize the then current trends and beliefs in the industrial relations at the Alton plants of the Western Electric Company in Chicago. Outline of study section 8. When you have studied this section, you should be able to 1. Explain the human relations movement, 2. Explain the contributions of Abraham Maslow to human relations movement, 3. Discuss the contribution of McGregor to human relations movement, 4. Explain the relationships between Maslow and McGregor, and lastly, discuss contributions and criticisms of human relations approach. Definition of human relations movement. Human relations movement is a management perspective that views employees as responding to the interpersonal processes. Human relations movement refers to the researchers of organizational development who studied the behavior of people in groups, in particular workplace groups, and other related concepts in fields such as industrial and organizational psychology. The human relations movement was founded by sociologist George Elton Mayo in the 1930s after a series of experiments known as the Alton studies, which focused on exploring the link between the employee's satisfaction, well-being, and workplace productivity. In Alton studies, it was concluded that when employers take an interest in workers and make decisions based on their natural needs and psychological makeup, productivity increases. They also found out that people work best when organized into groups, when they can have effective two-way communication with their leaders, and when leaders communicate and share information freely as part of an overall cohesive decision-making process. Contribution of Abraham Maslow. The Alton study was not a total failure as criticized by some critics, but the studies furnished some clues that managers need for more guidance. The two theories that provided the impetus for what managers needed were Maslow and McGregor. The two wrote extensively on motivation. Motivation refers to the force that energizes behavior, gives direction to behavior, and underlines the tendency to persist. One of the most popular theories of human motivation was developed by Abraham H. Maslow in 1943. His work up to date is known as the hierarchy of needs theory. The Maslow hierarchy of needs, as shown on the slide, explains motivation theory, which suggests 5 interdependent levels of basic human needs motivator that must be satisfied in a straight sequence, starting with the lowest level. Physiological needs for survival and safety needs are the most fundamental and most pressing needs. The next one is the social needs and esteem needs, while the final and the highest level needs are self-actualization needs. Thus, Maslow's hierarchy of needs is used in management to design incentive schemes, while in marketing it is used in designing of promotional campaign based on the perceived needs of market segments of products. Based on market segments a product satisfies. Basis of Maslow's theory. Maslow's theory is based on the following four main propositions. 1. Man's needs are arranged in a hierarchy of importance ranging from the lowest need, physiological, to self-actualization. 2. Man is continually wanting. 3. Once a need is fairly well satisfied, it no longer motivates behavior. And lastly, the various needs are interdependent and overlapping. Man is continually wanting. Consequently, all needs are never fully satisfied. Once a particular need is satisfied, its potency or urgency of satisfaction diminishes, and another need emerges to replace it. This means that man is an insatiable being. Then, once a need is fairly satisfied or well satisfied, it no longer motivates behavior. Man is consequently motivated by the next higher level of unsatisfied needs. However, it can be motivated in a reverse direction if a lower level need is threatened. Classification of needs. Classification of needs. 1. Physiological needs are the needs that are required for survival, such as food, water, shelter, and sex. Another classification of needs is safety. Safety needs are needs that pertain to the desire to feel safe, secured, and free from threats of existence. Third classification of needs is esteem needs. These are needs that are desired to have a positive self-image and to have our contributions valued and appreciated by others. And last classification of need is self-actualization needs. These are the needs that pertain to the requirement of developing our capability and reaching our full potentials. Then assessment of Maslow's work. Maslow's work has some strengths and weaknesses. Considering its weaknesses first, the theory can only apply to healthy people. In the advanced developed nation, physiological and safety needs may not necessarily serve as motivators, but in the poor nations where famine and starvation are prevalent, people's needs hardly go beyond the physiological level. Also, in advanced nations, Maslow's theory has only general, not specific application. Based on Maslow's theory, once lower level needs have been satisfied, giving more of the same does not provide motivation. Individuals advance up the hierarchy as each lower level need becomes satisfied. Therefore, to provide motivation for a change in behavior, the manager must direct attention to the next higher level of needs, in this case love or social needs that seeks satisfaction. Contribution of Douglas McGregor. Motivation in organization encompasses forces both within internal and external to the individual workers. Internal motivation refers to the needs, wants, and desires which exist within an individual and make up its internal motivation, whereas the external motivations consider the forces which exist outside an individual. External motivation includes the factors controlled by the manager. One theory of motivation which incorporates both internal and external motivation is that of Douglas McGregor. In McGregor's view, external motivation is manifested in the assumptions the manager makes regarding the attitude of its subordinates. McGregor set forth two alternative views of the nature of man. These are Theory X and Theory Y. The two theories have conflicting assumptions. Theory X and Y. Theory X, this assumes that employees are naturally unmotivated and dislike working, and this encourages an authoritarian style of management. According to this view, management must actively intervene to get things done. The assumptions of Theory X are: 1. Dislike working. 2. Avoid responsibility and needs to be directed. 3. have to be controlled, forced and threatened to deliver what is needed. 4. Needs to be supervised at every step with controls put in place. 5. Needs to be enticed to produce results, otherwise they have no ambition or incentive to work. Theory Y. This explains a participative style of management that is decentralized. It assumes that employees are happy to work, are self-motivated and creative, and enjoy working with greater responsibility. Under this theory, it is assumed that workers take responsibility and motivated to fulfill the goals they are given. 2. Seek and accept responsibility and do not need much direction. 3. Consider work as a natural part of life and solve work problems imaginatively. Assessment of McGregor's work. McGregor's theory looked too simplistic, but the theory is not a soft option. In reality, it is often difficult to achieve successfully. It can also be frustrating and time-consuming, and mistakes will occur. Relationships between theories of Maslow and McGregor. On face of relationship, there is very little in common between Maslow's theory of hierarchy of needs and McGregor's theory X and theory Y. But when by looking beyond the obvious meanings, it becomes clear that the theory X of McGregor is describing a characteristics of a person who is still at the level of the first two needs in Maslow's hierarchy of needs. In comparison, the theory Y represents people who have advanced to the third, fourth, and fifth level of Maslow's hierarchy. Thus, though McGregor makes no mentions of alternative type of needs, it does realize the potential of all people to aspire to higher level of motivation. To this extent, the Maslow and McGregor are thinking alike. However, unlike Maslow, McGregor does not recognize the condition of lower level needs to be met for people to aspire to higher level of needs. Contribution and criticism of human relations approach. The major contributions of the human relations approach are that 1. It was the first to recognize explicitly the roles and importance of interpersonal relations and group behavior at work. 2. Critically re-examine the relationship between the wages and motivation. And 3. Showed how social and technical systems interrelate. Other contributions of human relation approach are: it questioned the presumption that society consists of a horde of machinery individuals, each attempting selfish to maximize their personal self-interest. It also highlighted links between job satisfaction and productivity. Criticism of human relation approach. 1. It underestimates the effect of organizational structure on individual behavior. 2. View organizations as closed systems and ignores political, economic, and other environmental forces. 3. It does not explain the influence of labor unions on employee attitude and behavior. Also, it overestimates the motivation, desire to participate in decision making, and the occupational self-awareness of many employees. Not everyone wants to exercise initiative or to control their work. Indeed, many people have little idea of what they actually expect or desire from their employment experience, and thus welcome directions imposed by a higher level of authority. Another criticism of human relations approach is that it focuses attention on the influence of small groups while neglecting the effect of the wider social structures within which groups are embedded. Thank you for listening. We've come to the end of today's lectures. Hope to see you in the next class. Have a good day.